everybody, coming at you from out in the wilderness. We have another experiment today, and I was inspired. There's a channel on YouTube called Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, and they run a podcast every week, Robert and Ben. And not only are they on YouTube, but they're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google Podcast. They're on everywhere you can be. But I love listening to them. I catch them, I think it's every Wednesday. I think it's once a week. But I like to listen to those guys discuss different subjects. And recently, they were talking about Ranger bands. Now, I think everybody knows what Ranger bands are. Ranger bands are cut up pieces of inner tube. All right. So you use it for, like, most people use it for like holding a ferro rod to their knife or their machete, like that, because it's an all-around versatile thing. Well, anyway, they were discussing Ranger bands in a couple of episodes back, and Robert had said Ranger bands can pretty much do anything. And then that got the wheels to a turning, and I thought to myself, I wonder if you could assemble a shelter frame out of Ranger bands and then cover it with a tarp. So with the old wheels turning, what we're going to do is we're going to try to assemble a freestanding A-frame with Ranger bands and no cordage, and then we're going to throw a tarp over it. And then there's another trick that I learned from a member on Bushcraft USA about using a bug hammock in a shelter. So we're going to try that too for the first time. So let's get this pack off and get this stuff out, and then we're going to go start carving up some small branches for our A-frame. Alright, this looks like a not so bad spot. Oh, let's see. I got you in shot here. Let me back up a little bit. Alright, we're going to do the old dumperoo for whatever we're going to be using. One thing, I'm going to be using a Silky Pocket Boy and then a Mora Garberg for processing the wood. And then I have a LT Wright machete, which I love. It's awesome. Kind of makes me wonder if Condor didn't model the Terrachete after this shape, because this came out before the Terrachete, because they look very similar. Anyway, let's open this up. Alright, I have a blanket. I have some lights. Doodad. No, that's first aid kit. Toilet paper. I have the bug hammock. Okay, these are the Ranger bands. I put them in a bag, and I got some clips and some paracord in there. Alright, this is a Pencott Badlands firewall. Oh, and this is a woodland camo firewall, but I'm going to be using it as a floor. Slumberjack summertime, a bag liner. I got my canteen. I got some steaks. And I have here a surprise that my brother found at the bargain bin for $1. That is awesome. Okay, this is the nuts and bolts of the shelter. My Pencott, I have two tarps now. People might remember in an old video I had the Pencott Badlands tarp. Well, I've got one that's made out of a heavy canvas polyester type deal, and then I've got one that's out of ripstop nylon now, super lightweight. I made it for my hammock. Anyway, so that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. The other stuff is like snacks and food. Alright, I'm going to find a place to hang this on a tree, and then we're going to get some small saplings for our frame. A couple of things that I want to talk about here. I'm fixing, before I go get my stuff, my saplings. Okay, I'm using a Pocket Boy. Whenever you're cutting, they have medium and large and extra large teeth. The extra large teeth is good for like firewood. The medium teeth, the very fine teeth, they're good for really, really small stuff and bamboo. All right. Now, once again, neck knife safety. Usually when you're hiking, have your knife in your shirt, or like I had earlier, your cross strap on your backpack, have it holding it down so that it won't dangle around everywhere. Now another thing is I mentioned something about this machete here that I want to talk about. Okay, this is an LT Wright machete. And the cool thing about it is it's got dual loops here so that you can put a pants loop in there and it won't move around. And it has a dangler. I love a dangler because then you can lift the machete up when you pull it out instead of having it in a fixed position to where you have to always do this. You can pull it out like this and do it like that. All right. Now this thing, it's a very nice machete, and it has these little grooves in there so that you can like hold it, choke up on it in different ways. But my car to handle. I'm not sure what the steel is, but that's a super nice machete. Now I mentioned that the new Condor Terrachete looks like this. I don't have a Terrachete, but I've read about it, and they're making those things with the Scandi grind right here, which is pretty cool. So they're not selling it as a bushcraft machete, they're selling it as a survival machete, which is pretty cool because if it's got the Scandi grind, it can do everything. But I don't have one, so anyway. Condor don't like me, so they're not going to send me one. They don't send me nothing. Anyway, all right, enough chit-chatting. Let's get this show on the road and see if these Ranger bands are going to build us a frame. All right, I got 4 pieces prepared, and they're about neck high. I think that's about right. Anywhere from neck high to head high will work with the tarp that I brought. Now, the thing about these is what I'm going to do is up at the top, I've rounded them off. All right. I just kind of went around rounding it off like that. All right. And the bottoms, I'm sharpening so that they'll stab in the ground. And then of course, since I'm going to be putting a tarp on it, I took my machete and all of these little nubs, anything that catches the machete, you just want to run that machete up and down it just like that. And any of those little nubs on it, if it catches the machete, you're going to chop them off and it won't catch your tarp. All right. So let's get the Ranger bands out now and start assembling it. All right, I got all these in a little pouch here. And I got some paracord, but I'm not going to use it for the frame. That's going to be for my hammock. Got a little bit more paracord. And I got to hang my food up in a tree because somebody said that black bears have moved into this territory, but I haven't seen them in years. And then I got some little clips here. I got some little clips that I always use for my firewall. We may or may not use it, I don't know, but I'm not going to have a fire. All right, inside here I have chopped up an entire bicycle inner tube, and I have cut them all up into 1.5 inch pieces. But instead of calling them bicycle inner tubes, we're going to call them Ranger bands. All right, so let's grab 2 of these. All right, we're going to cross them just like this and stab them in the ground. Now, I'm not going to stab them in the ground real deep. Can you see this? Okay. See, I'm on the GoPro and I got a mirror behind it. I can't see what I'm doing. All right, so let's see. Now, if my estimations are right, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to put these Ranger bands 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to slide them on. You'll see why in a minute. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now what we're going to do is, let me pull you in a little bit closer and pull you down a little bit. All right, see the top of this? What we're going to do is we're just going to stick these we're going to slide that Ranger band down. Just like that. We want these to be level at the top. Alright, then I'm going to stab this in the ground. And then I'm going to stab that one in the ground. Ha! Got a vine on the tripod. Wait a minute. Hold on, what happened? So I got these two stabbed in the ground, tied together. Now I'm fixing to drop 4 more on each leg of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll stab them in the ground, then I'll get a ridge pole. Alright, so I got me a ridge pole now. And it's a little over head high. Not real sure how high it needs to be. And what we're going to do next, can you see me on camera? Okay. What we're going to do next is we're going to pick up one of these. And then I'm going to put, let's see. Let's put this end through. Alright, let's slide it right all the way through. And then lift it up to the top. Now what I want to do is twist it, and that's going to lock that in. Alright, now I just got it balanced on the other end over there. I've got it twisted here, but it's balanced on the other end, and I'm going to show you we're going to have to make a sharp pokey stick so that I can manipulate that Ranger band to hold that ridge pole. Alright, so let's do that next. And I'll get you over there close to where you can see what I'm doing. Is I've made a sharp stick, a little sharp stick. Okay, we're going to use this for assembling the shelter. Also handy for if Dracula wanders into your camp. All right, so I've reached down to the bottom leg, and remember I said, let's get this up here. Remember I said that I dropped 4 Ranger bands on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this sharp stick up in here. And I'm going to try to, oh, wait a minute, let's do it this way. I ain't never done this before. This is a new thing to me. So I'm going to slide this in here. Let me get on the other side. And then I'm going to twist. Am I getting this on camera? Hold on, let me move the camera a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to twist and lift to try to get this Ranger band on, just like that. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this thing out and see the Ranger band's holding it now. I got these two held together, and then that Ranger band I brought up and I grabbed it on here. That's a little wobbly. It's a little wobbly, so let's put 2 more pieces down on the bottom. Try this again. What I'm going to do, I'll take one of these Ranger bands. I'm going to slide this inside, just like that, and then I'm going to turn it. Let's see. And then I'm going to get this one. See if I can do it without the stick. Nah, I ain't gonna be able to. Let's see, I'm gonna get my Dracula stick here. Let's lift this up. Alright. Let me pull you in closer. So you can get another idea of it. Alright. There's a Ranger band. I got my stick in here. I'm going to pull and twist, lift it out. try not to stab myself while filming. There you go, look at that. And then you just pull this out. Look at that. All right. So let's put one more stick on the other side, and then we'll be able to throw the tarp over. And once you throw the tarp over and you've got the stakes in the ground, pulling the tarp over and down is going to inherently give this frame strength, because see, it kind of wobbles right now. So I'm going to put one more on there and then we'll do that. All right, so there we go. We have a shelter frame made out of Ranger bands. Let's take a look at this again. There's a brace. It's held in. Travel all the way up there. There's the other brace. And then you're up at the top. I got this part, the two uprights together, and then I got the ridge pole held into this leg. And then that thing's held in. All right, it worked. Now let's just throw the tarp over it and stake it down and see what happens. All right, so I've got my Pincott Badlands tarp now, both homemade. Now between these two tarps and this firewall, you'll see more about this in a minute. Between these two tarps and this firewall, I think my brother and I counted up 23, 24, maybe 25 different setups just out of these three items. And there may be more. This is the newest addition to the family. This is ripstop nylon. It's a really small tarp. And this fabric's not really that expensive, because this fabric's from like 2011 or 2010, I think. I got it off Etsy. Oh, these bags, the bargain bin's always got these bags, and on 50-cent day, go and grab you a bunch of bags. So we're going to throw the tarp on here, and I've modified these loops, and I'm going to show you something about that once I start staking it down. And then I made a neat pouch here for them. This pouch, it's a double wall pouch, and the whole thing is surrounded by Velcro instead of just having a Velcro top. And the reason is because if a hole on these stakes, if they poke a hole in the pouch, this heavy Velcro is going to be wrapping completely around it, holding them in. It's not a work of art, but it works. Before I stake this down, I don't really want both ends of this thing open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other one, and I'm just going to kind of throw it over the end, and then I'll stake it off and tie it off as needed. That way this shelter will be enclosed on the end. That little tarp's got loops all over it, so I'll stake it down and tie it off as needed. Be nice if I could use a Ranger band, but we'll see. How's this thing come open? Oh, I don't even know. I made it and I don't even know. All right, now I want to show you something about these loops here. I made these loops extra large because one of the setups is running logs through here or trees. Well, I realized then sometimes when you stretch this thing out like this, sometimes in some cases you can have like a gap between here. So what I did is I just sewed a little bit through there so that there's just enough room for a stake to go through there. And it's right up close to it. So we're going to stake that thing off. just like that. All right, so I'm gonna go around and stake all of them off. All right, so there's a front view with it all stretched out. Let's go around to the back side, and I'm already seeing a problem. Right in there, the back tarp is following the frame, and this tarp is larger, so it's being spread out. So I'm gonna have to do something to fill in that hole. See the little hole right there? But I'm gonna try to do it with a piece of wood and a Ranger band. I love that camo pattern. All right, I got you inside this shelter, and as you can see, like I said, there's a gap right there. I'm hoping that this is filming good. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these loops, and I just don't see how I can use a Ranger band for this. I'll have to either clip that on or something. But what I've done is I've got a sharpened stick. So what I'm gonna do, so one end's sharp and one end's rounded. See how that end is? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this down in here. And then I'm just gonna extend the frame out like that. And then I'm gonna pull up this Ranger band and slide it on. Yeah, look at that. I think that'll work. Yeah. And then I'll go around to the back and I'll stake it off. I think I'm gonna clip this. Yeah, that'll work. All right, I had to take you off the stand. See that down in the bottom where that's stabbed in the ground and this tarp is folded over? Well, look, this is the top of the stick. It's inside that Ranger band. We'll do the other side that way, then we're going to put the floor in it. All right, so I'd say we're pretty solid now. We're pretty rainproof and windproof. Next, let's pimp out the inside. All right, so I've got this thing. What this is supposed to be a, well, it's kind of a multi-purpose use of gear, because it's got loops on it with paracord, and it's got a reflective wall on it. And you're supposed to use this for, like, you know, people talk about fire reflectors where they'll stack up logs. That don't reflect anything. It just blocks the wind. You got to have some kind of a shiny surface like this to reflect. So, but I'm going to use this as a floor. And I think what I'm going to do, if it was winter time, I'd lay on the reflective side, but I'm just going to lay on the cloth side. This was the other part I was telling you about, but I don't really think I'm going to need it. But because you can use it as a wind blocker, it may be a rain blocker, but what it is it's just a little firewall. Camo on one side, reflective heavy mylar on the other side. And see, it's meant to be like a reflective firewall, but you could see, put it in here like this on some stakes, and it would kind of block the wind and kind of keep critters from coming in. But the next thing, before we get on to where the hammock is I'm going to show you this neat little thing here. Now, I don't know what it costs on Amazon. I have absolutely no idea, but let's take a look at it. Let me adjust you down here where you can see. All right, and then adjust the mirror where I can see. All right, now my brother got this at the bargain bin for $1, and as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with it. But what it is now, I've made a lot of stuff like this, but I hadn't really made one this nice. It's a little heavy, but it's pretty cool, and I don't know how it's listed as. But what it is it's a little fold-up table. Isn't that the coolest thing you've ever seen? Now I think How does this, okay, this goes this way before you unfold it. Like that. And it's a neat little fold-up table. Isn't that the coolest thing you ever seen? So see, you can just like put stuff on it at night. Isn't that awesome? I love it, I love it. All right, well, I gotta change a battery in the old GoPro, and then we're gonna get to the hammock part of things. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna take this, it's a bug net hammock. Like I said, I learned this. This is a little trick I learned from a guy off of Bushcraft USA. So what we want to do is, this is like, it's a bug hammock is basically a piece of nylon with a bug net. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this thing out, and then we're going to throw one in, down, all the way down. And then what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to lift the net up and hold it on the framework. And I can't do that with Ranger bands. We're going to have to do that with paracord. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get the GoPro in here so that I can show you a little bit better of what we're doing once it's done. Now I need the zipper on this side. Now it's hard enough filming with a GoPro, but it's also hard just filming inside a little shelter. But what I'm doing is right here, the bug net part of it has 6 loops. So what I'm doing is I put the paracord in here, and I run it behind this thing, and then I ran it over the framework up at the top, and then run it through this other loop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pull it up just like that until it's got just enough room for my body, and then I'm going to tie it off up top. Now, I don't know if I can do this one-handed or not. Nah, I can't adjust this thing. I'll just have to show it to you after it's done. There, I hope you can see that, but I'm going to bring you inside. But I've got all that paracord tied up right in there. And then I think down here on the end, let's see if I can get you on here. Where this is, I'll just pull it tight and stake the end down. So right here, I'll just stake the end down and it kind of pulls the end of it tight. Alright, I don't know if you can see inside there or not, but we're going to go in there. Now this thing right here, I'm just going to go ahead and use it as I'm going to go ahead and drag it inside and use it as another part of a floor. We'll drag it on up in there. Alright, let's go on inside. Now this may be kind of shaky. If it is, I'm sorry, but this ain't easy to film. Alright, I will turn around. Now let's pull this floor to us. Alright, so we got another little floor here. Alright, now let's take a look at this thing. What this is. See it? Now I've got the paracord going up to the roof. It's pretty dark back in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to unzip this, and then we're going to put our blanket inside it, and then we're going to try to crawl in it. I'm going to put the camera right out there at the end of the shelter so that you can watch me do it. Hopefully I can lighten this up enough with the editing program so you can see it. Alright, so let's unzip each end. Take our blanket out in case it gets cold. Now normally I don't lay on the ground in warm weather. I wait till fall. Well, usually I wait till winter, but during the fall there's still a few ants and ticks and bugs on the ground. So if you're going to lay on the ground, that's when you need a bug net. Normally I bring a military bug net, but there was a guy on Bushcraft USA that said that he just takes his hammock and uses it. So I think this is a great idea. So I'm just going to lay a blanket in here. I may or may not need it, I don't know. My head is right here. I got about a foot overhang up ahead. So let's just see if I can crawl in. All right, so far so good. Oh yeah. Oh man. And then just zip it up from the inside. Just like that. All the way up. I don't know if you can still see me or not. Can you kind of make me out a little bit? See, there's more than enough room in here now that I can just lay like this. Oh, that's awesome. I've actually got the GoPro. I'm actually holding it literally off the tripod. You can see my feet right here. I probably need to stake out that other end of the hammock. That's what the inside of the shelter looks like. Look, there's a loop on the inside where you can hang a light. There's a paracord up top. Right up there where it's tied on. Let's see if I can get out of this thing one-handed. See, this is the lap of luxury. Alright, let's see. Now, if I could do that one-handed, pretty darn good. This is so awesome. 2 new discoveries at once. Ranger band shelter. And a hammock for a bed bug net. That's awesome. All right, now usually whenever I do a setup like this, I'll carry 3 of these little lights like this. And they're pretty neat. And then I'll carry some bungee cords. So what they're good for, and then I carry the batteries separately so that I don't lose them. I mean, so that they don't accidentally get turned on. And usually I'll keep them, I'll put some dry cotton in there. That way I can use it as tinder if I have to, cotton and matches. And it keeps the batteries from bouncing around everywhere and touching each other. Now with these lights, I like these lights because what I do is I have 3 of them. And this neat little table here, I'm going to have one sitting on the table right beside my bed. And then I'm going to have one hanging overhead. The way I do that is I'll just have this bungee cord hanging from the ridge line right over my head. And see, this is a 3-way deal for, let's see, and then I'll have one out here on the end. This is a 3-way deal where it's got like a, wait a minute, I must have put the battery in wrong, backwards. Yeah, I did. Mr. Survival Expert. But anyway, this thing's a flashlight and a lantern and a blinking beacon. Yeah, see now it's got a straight beam. It's got a straight flashlight. And then it's got all these LEDs right here, which I'll use as like a lantern on the inside. And it's also got a blinking red light. Now that blinking red light is good for if I step out of here after dark. What I always do is I'll set that on top somehow. I'll mount that up on top of the shelter where it'll be blinking, or I'll hang it from right there. That way I can find my way back to the shelter. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm going to give you a walk around. I think the Ranger band thing was, I think it works. I think it's successful. I think it's great. But anyway, and then the hammock part is pretty awesome. So we're going to take a walk around one more time, and then we're going to hop in bed. Take us a nap. The mosquitoes are starting to come out because it's getting kind of late. All right, so take it easy. Enjoy life. I hope you enjoy this, and we shall See you in the next one. Oh, and once again, I want to thank Robert and Ben from Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures for inspiring me on the Ranger bands. Y'all go check their channel out and listen to their podcast. We shall. See you in the next one.